So your first review. So these reviews are going to change, of course, week to week as we cover different content. And for this week, it's going to be week 0, week 1, and the course syllabus. So it's good to review those things. You can also have them open in another tab. So in this video, I walk you through how this assignment works and how you would interact with it. Now, this is an AI assisted interface, and I've actually helped create the interface that you're about to look at that interfaces what your chat conversation, in this case, answering questions. So you're going to answer 15 questions correctly. That's how you get the points for it. And so what I'm going to do is actually move to the student view. So on the student view here, this is something I suspect you've seen before in Canvas, right? So this is, if we go look at the modules, this is the next item in. Now, one thing I will say as far as the due dates, I make these reviews due on Friday at the end of the day, and I grade Monday through Friday mornings. And really what this means is, and I just set this here as a target, but as long as they're done by the following Monday, I consider them on time. I do recommend doing them as soon as you finish that week's work because it's still fresh in your mind. Okay, so this is an interactive quiz assignment, unlike your traditional quizzes, but it kind of acts like it, so you'll see that. So the first thing is you might think, well, I'm going to hit new attempt, and you don't do that. What you want to do is scroll through this, and we'll look at how it works. Once you start, you must complete in one sitting. The system does not save your progress, okay? So make sure you keep that in mind. So just set a little time aside and get this done. When it opens, you're going to click on this. The text is this. It'll actually be a button. You'll see that in a minute. And then you'll actually have a couple of buttons that will be first answer, then give feedback, and then submit. And I'll show you how these work when we get in. So in this case, I avoid using a mobile device. I've even tried this on an iPad. Sometimes it doesn't work as well. On a full desktop, it generally works better. And that's because on these mobile devices, when you move away from the browser window, it refreshes. And when you refresh, you got to start over. All right, so here's how you begin. You click here to begin, and what it'll do is it'll open up a new window. So if you do not see the window that I'm about to see, that means your pop-up blocker may not be, or may be blocking it, okay? So the first thing you'll have to do, and for students who have taken my class before, you will see that this is different. In this case, students, before you used to have to enter your ID, you no longer have to do that, but you have to authorize. Now, once you authorize, oh, hold on. That happened because I actually haven't published the course when I'm recording this video, so I had to make a little change. So what will happen is once you click the authorize, then it'll actually say, hey, make sure you read and understand. This is you, this is your ID, and this should list you and your ID. Signing in as a different user is a violation of terms, okay? And then we also want you to know that what you're about to do in this chat session is recorded for educational purposes. What will happen is what you do in the chat when you submit actually will show up in Canvas, and I'll show you that in a moment. So once you hit agree, now you're actually at what we call ACCs, or AI Canvas chats. We call them weekly reviews. That's a type of assignment, but there's actually a product name associated with this. So this is all the content you saw in Canvas. So right now, there's nothing you can do except answer 15 questions. You can't give any other, right? You don't log out. If you do, you just have to start over. So, at this point, you're ready to start. So when you click start here, what will happen is it's going to look through all the content and the questions I've provided it, right? And so it's going to ask you, what's the purpose of the weekly attendance post, right? And you give it your best answer, like maybe to check in for the week's work and interact. How about interact with other students? Okay, let's see how that answer goes. You hit enter here, right? And so what happens is it actually gives you feedback. That's not correct, but you actually have another try at it. And here's a brief hint. It serves to confirm participation and ensure students are engaged. So I'd be like, wait a minute. And this is not a bad thing. It's like, that is what I said. Okay. Apologies for that. You are indeed right. So what it will do is track your answers as well, right? So if you feel like your question really got to the spirit, because of the thing that's unlike traditional quizzes is that you can kind of get it right, give it your best shot. And then what I do is I review this chat session, and you can see it when it goes into Canvas, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go through the entire assignment and show you the last part. Okay, so I got to the end, and now that I've answered 15, and actually I did, right now, right, when it's generated, you have congratulations, right? Before we wrap up, give me your thoughts. So this is where you get full points by going and answering it and then giving feedback. Now in this case, the thing you can know about AI, if you don't already know this, is it wants to be helpful. And sometimes it'll actually answer the questions for you. And so if it does that, and actually I just had this happen to me. I've tested it several times and it didn't do it, but this last time it did. So I just told it to give me some more questions. Now the second way it did it, actually gave it to me in a list, and so I was just going through and answering it. So, this is not perfect. Review is a review of the concepts, and so the point is for you to make an authentic effort to do it, right? So the feedback is the feedback the AI gives you, and then also in this last prompt or this last input, I give me. So in this case, me is Rio, okay? Feedback on your experience. Because, as I said, this is a product we're still working on, right? And then what will happen is that once after you click the give me feedback, then you can actually see the assignment. And so, see the submission. So when you actually submit, what will happen is you'll get this wonderful little, we call it a toast message. And that toast message indicates that the chat session that you just submitted, you just went through, is submitted into Canvas. So if it does give you answers, ask it to give you more questions, okay? So that's just, like I said, it's a work in progress. If the more I've studied about this, these AI, in this case, the chat GPT and many of the other ones are really intended to be helpful, almost too helpful at times. Okay, so now once this closes, or once that closes, you can no longer interact. And my suggestion is actually just to close the tab. Now back over here in Canvas, if I actually go view it as a student again, what I will see is that I've actually submitted this assignment. And I think if I just go into grades, I'll see it. Yeah, so in this case, the review, here it is, right? So if you go into the review, it'll look different. It'll have a T. So if you go in, you will then see that assignment. You would actually see that conversation, okay? And that's where you know you've completed it correctly. Because if you don't get all the way to the end, you won't see that show up in your grade. So it's a way to check to make sure it happened, because maybe sometimes you were interacting and you were like, oh, it's just saved and submitted to Canvas. Well, it's not. You actually have to do that step. Now, one thing I want to just go back in here to the assignment, just because we kind of looked over it a little bit, but in order to get all the points, you have to answer 15 questions correctly. Again, if the AI gets helpful and gives you get both ask and answers, then ask it for more questions, because I will see that in your log. And by the way, if it does do that, look at the answer that it gave you. It's good, because it's basically a way to study and see how well you got that content, right? To get all the points, so you have to do the final step of giving feedback, and then of course you have to submit it. You can take it multiple times, and I will grade your last attempt. Now going forward, these will look different, because as we get into the content, then they'll be, or get into our course content around HTML and CSS, then they'll be focused on those concepts and coding. All right, I hope this helps you, and I'll talk to you later.